and whether Bradford can stay healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are live and discussing the Philadelphia Eagles to start with the show today, although we're going to talk about teams that can disappoint.
Actually, here are my slippers. There we go.
Oh, there. So, yes, we just found out, Dan, although an Islanders fan, isn't
It's my dad. It's my dad's fault.
Yeah, I was gonna say that you're a contradiction in terms, Dan. You're like me. It's like you're an Eagles fan, an Islanders fan. Do you have a who's your your Yankees, and who's your basketball, if any?
I guess the Nets. I really don't have one, but I would say the Nets.
Yeah.
My dad made me like the Eagles and the Yankees because when he came to this country in the 50s, they were really, really good. Thankfully, he got the Yankees right. The Eagles, not so much. All they do is disappoint me.
They haven't won a championship since Norm Van Brocklin.
That's who my dad loved.
Yeah, it's been a while. That was Franklin Field too. That was another world.
Yes, of the four major sports, the only team that I root for that has any connection to Buffalo is the Bills. I assume the Yankees are the team for Western New York because it was either them or Cleveland back in the day. Now with Toronto being the AAA affiliate in Buffalo, there are more Blue Jays fans here, but I think that just shows a genuine lack. Oh, never mind.
No,
I think it's awesome what Toronto's doing right now. I think it's great for the game.
Well, I'll hold my opinion on that one.
I like it too, and I think although it is the equivalent of like the Florida Panthers doing it, in hockey, like because the people in the United States are like, a Canadian team, they can't win in baseball.
They won 2 titles 20 years ago.
I know, but still.
And the June Carter home run is one of the more iconic moments in baseball history.
Touch them all, Joe.
Look at that
We're
lineup.
hitting all the Philadelphia fans' tropes today.
Honestly, Dan, I look at that lineup. I've been a baseball fan my entire life. It's a very top-heavy lineup. The first 4 guys are great, and then I think the rest of it is pedestrian. I don't think it's great.
Respectfully, you're nuts.
Okay.
What?
I said respectfully, you're nuts.
Are you talking about the Blue Jays lineup?
Yeah.
I'm with Mike.
I think it's really good.
I mean, they're good ball players, but it's not like we've seen lineups that are 1 to 9 that are just amazing and impressive and have a pedigree. And these guys have played well and they're good, but it's not like you look at them and say, well, these guys are good. All going to go to the Hall of Fame.
Tulowitzki's one of the best shortstops in the game, and they had him leading off, which he is not the right place. Now they finally moved him down, and he's hitting 5th. Donaldson's having an MVP season. Batista and Encarnacion are solid veteran guys and can hit the ball out of the park.
They're better than solid veteran guys.
Well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, Batista's hitting 240. He's walking a ton, and he's got close to 30 home runs, if not more. But then you're talking about Ryan Goins and Ben Revere and
Melo's having a really good year. Russell Martin's having a really good year.
Russell Martin
is having a really good year.
You're making our case for us.
Yeah, but they're good players. Russell Martin wins wherever he's gone.
He's not a Hall of Famer.
You don't have to be a Hall of Famer. The reason why the Yankees won so much in the late '90s is because they didn't have a lot of Hall of Famers.
Yeah, well, I think it's really been fun, and I love the fact they hit so many home runs, but I don't think it's the greatest lineup I've ever seen.
Right. Well,
just in an era where no one can hit ananymore.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Dan, and this is the way I look at it.
Blue Jays.
That lineup has been unconscious since they made the Tulowitzki deal, since they got David Price. The organization has been just infused with confidence, and it has to end sometime. That's what and they play the Yankees 7 times in September. The only thing with the Yankees is that Teixeira is out probably a couple weeks with this bone bruise that he has, and that could be a determining factor, but I think both teams are making the playoffs. I just think that the Blue Jays are good. But also the thing is they're sold to the devil. They've traded 11 of their pitching prospects to make a run this year, and they've emptied the coffers. So
Right.
if they don't win this year, they're in trouble for 3 or 4 years.
We'll see. I think right now in the American League, there's no dominant team. The Astros don't scare anybody. The Royals are very good, but the Royals don't have great pitching either.
Well, I heard that in baseball, you can trade 500 prospects because you have 2,000 other prospects. I mean, it's essentially. I mean, I get it.
But they were trading their premium prospects. I think the Blue Jays are going to win it all. I just don't think it's a team for the ages. That's all.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it is either, but I just think in a day and age when no one can hit consistently, and I'm stuck at work at 4 a.m. because I'm watching the Rockies and the Diamondbacks can't get the ball to the infield at 4 a.m. It's refreshing to see a team that can hit a damn home run.
Let's just say this. I hope that the AL Championship Series comes down to Toronto and New York, or Toronto and Kansas City. If it's Toronto and New York, it'll just be entertaining because it's 2 great teams. If it's Toronto and Kansas City, that series that they played in August, they were beating each other. They hate each other viscerally.
They really do hate each other. Yeah, that'll be good.
So that will be great theater.
and it is the only sport that has bench clearing brawl still. So let's give it that.
Which is ridiculous. If you leave the bench, let's end that right now.
There's nothing more interesting.
They should have the third man in rule in baseball.
Yeah, leave the bench in 10 games. There you go. That ends it right now.
Well, if you asked the Boston Red Sox last night, the third man in was the umpire because they thought that the umpiring last night cost them the game. There was a play at third base where the Yankees player was off balance and pushed, I think it was Mookie Betts, off of the bag. And he was losing his balance, and when he pushed him off the bag, he had his glove on him, so they called him out. And they were going apoplectic because they said the guy shoved him off the bag. But he was losing his balance. There was no way for him not to shove the guy off the bag.
I think he assisted him with gravity, though. I think he gave him a little nudge. The Yankees definitely caught a break last night.
Who is this,
Never
Isaac
have
Newton?
this discussion in hockey. You would never have this discussion assisted in gravity. With what kind of a sissy sport is this?
Someone asked me one time if I ever dove on a play, and I said no, I never dove, but there were times I didn't fight gravity.
Right. Okay, I'll buy that.
I never knew Sir Isaac Newton was playing third base for the Yankees.
Yeah. Well, this started off as a discussion about the Eagles, but mainly it's been a discussion about the Blue Jays. But yeah, the Eagles, the people in Philadelphia are convinced now that they are going to, that Chip Kelly is absolutely a genius and completely has turned everything and decided. I mean, and based on preseason games, which is always a scary thing to base your hopes on in the NFL football. I don't know a lot about the NFL, but I know the preseason games are not something you should base anything on. But
I am by far not a Dallas Cowboys fan. I don't like them, obviously being a Bills fan and them beating them in 2 Super Bowls. But I would be surprised if any team in the NFC East can contend with the Cowboys this year. Even though they lost DeMarco Murray as a running back, I can't see anybody beating the Cowboys unless Romo goes down to an injury. So Chip Kelly's got a big challenge in front of him.
Oh yeah. Well, he made a lot of changes, so we'll see. It was at least it was aggressive, right? So anyway, let's get started with the show because we got lots to talk about today. We're going to discuss teams that we think could fall miserably out of contention. NHL.
How uplifting.
We should probably address Bryce Salvador's retirement.
Yeah, I would like to start there. We'll start there for sure.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So the date is September 2nd.
Yep.
Got it.
Dan, you're after me.
Okay.
It's as if I'm looking in the wrong place. Like I feel like my camera usually I'm like doing one of those documentaries for like The Office or something like that.
I look at the screen. I don't look at the camera, and it's almost.
I do too. I look at the screen too. I just, I'm captivated.
Well, your cameras are right above your screen. See, my camera is separate from my screen, so I have to look at the camera when I speak. See, now I'm looking at the camera, but if I look at the screen, I'm there. So the problem is like normally I have this set up better than I do right now. So anyway, we'll try this. We'll see what happens. It'll look interesting. All right, here we go. It's September 2nd. 2015. Hello, Hockey World. It's September 22nd.
No. Come on, really?
Take 2.
I have never once faked a screw up. Trust me, I have enough of them. I don't have to fake screw up.
I believe you.
Thank you. Jeez. I'll tell you what threw me off and was to start the show. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, August 2nd.
No.
No!
Oh, my goodness.
What the hell's wrong with me? All right. Okay. All right. Sorry. I got it.
Take 26.
God, I'll tell you what threw me off. We'll start the show. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, September 2nd, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Dan Petcher.
I'm Kevin Allen of USA Today Sports.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday around 1 o'clock or so in the day. And what threw me off was this thing that was sent to me. Thank you very much. This is sort of mind-boggling. This, my friends, is the 5th anniversary logo of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, wait a second. Hold on. Now, all right. They started in 2011, right? The 2011-2012 season?
Right.
All right. So this is their 4th season. Am I not correct there? If they started in the 11th, then they 12th. So
It's their 5th.
It's their 5th.
It's their 5th season?
Yeah, they played and started in 2011, and then they played 2012 season, 2013, 2014. Now they'll be playing.
Okay.
2015.
Right. All right. Because I was thinking that it starts with 2011-12 and ends with 2015-16. So that to me was 4.
Is that an American plane?
13, 14, 15, 16. 5.
Right? 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh,
That looks like an American plane. That looks like a Falcon.
It could be. You know.
Why would there be an American plane?
No, it's not. It's
because the Canadian Air Force buys from the U.S.
No,
Okay.
No, but it's a good logo, and I just.
Oh, it's a great logo.
But here's the thing, does it feel impossible? First of all, that the Winnipeg Jets are celebrating an anniversary already, and does that make you wonder how fast time goes by? It's just, this sort of, I don't know, just kind of threw me. Maybe I'm the only one, but it feels like that.
The Maple Leafs have been planning for 4 or 5 years the centennial.
Oh, well, no, that's a big deal, okay?
I know, but I'm just saying, it's like, any organization out there, if they have a chance to celebrate a round-numbered anniversary, they're going to 25, 30, 40, that, the Buffalo Sabres have done that. It's just part of,
I don't really remember teams celebrating their 5th year, though, in the past.
Yeah, no, X Point's a good one. I think that's a completely different point, Mike. I think what he's saying is that, why would you celebrate just 5 years in the league, A, and isn't it amazing that they've already been in the league?
Yeah.
Both of those things are baffling to me. Like, I've seen the 10th year anniversary. Like, this is the 25th anniversary of the Predators. That to me is, okay, there's something to the 25th anniversary of the Predators. They have the All-Star game there and all that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
I don't know. So anyway, that's my thought. Next, we do have before we get into the main topic for today, which we hopefully will get into, but we might not. Just warning you ahead of time, because that's what in the show we tend to talk about things, which is fun. We're going to talk about Bryce Salvador's retirement, and announces it today, Kevin, in kind of an interesting way. What are your thoughts on it all?
Yeah, what I was struck by was it was the sort of announcement that generally comes from a star. I got a press release and there was a quote, but I thought about it, and I think Bryce Salvador deserved to go out that way.
Yeah.
He made the most of everything he had as an NHL player. He was not an overly skilled guy, but he was known throughout his career as a good character player and a warrior-type stay-at-home defenseman. And, we're all going to remember the run that the Devils made where suddenly he looked like he was one of the best defensemen in the league. He had like 14 points, I think, in 24 games, where he had never been an offensive contributor. And, he just played probably the best hockey of his career. And, how many GMs after that have used the Devils as an example? Well, if the Devils can get to the final with that defense, anything is possible. I especially heard that over the next couple of seasons after they made that run. So, to me, it's sort of a reminder, too, that the NHL, despite the fact that we spend a lot of our time and attention talking about the star players, is really made up of the guys sort of like Bryce Salvador, who put their time in, are very effective players, and are just as responsible, if not more so, two successful teams, we're I'm sure this is a tough day for him.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it's ironic that he was a much better player in the second half of his career, which is unusual. Usually players in their first half of their career, that's when they've put up big numbers and made their mark, and then in the second half, they fill into a sort of like a bottom pairing or a secondary role. He was basically a bottom pairing seventh defenseman most of the time with St. Louis over a number of years. He never really stood out. I mean, he was a quality player, but never achieved the level of success and the prominence that he did with New Jersey. He got traded for, I think it was Cam Jansen. And over the last 7 or 8 years, I mean, he was a rock on that Devils blue line, in the end becoming their team captain at the end of his career. So, I mean, it was an unusual career, and I mean, it sounded like he was going to hang him up once the Devils didn't re-sign him, and I think he only played like 10 or 15 games last year because of injury. So, a good career, and I'm sure. I hope that he, finds something else to do in his post-hockey career.
I get the impression he's going to be involved with the Devils still.
Yeah,
he's already. It's already been announced that he's involved with the Devils with not a defined role, but working in the community. I'm assuming with youth teams and so forth.
Or he could be added to Toronto Maple Leafs front office like everyone else is, because this was definitely a Lou Lamoriello guy. I mean, this is Lou loved Bryce Salvador.
He did go to St. Louis and work with Brodeur.
Work with Marty, right? No, but he's he's definitely Lou loved Bryce. And I like the quote that he had, which was really interesting, where he says he's blessed and so thankful that my two sons, Pearson and Hudson, were able to see and remember me play, as I thought my career was over when I missed the entire 2010-11 series due to injury. And I can respect that. I mean, that I think a lot of people, it is something very cool when your kids get to see you do your job like that. Like he got a chance to, versus when your kids are really small, they don't quite get it. They get it, but they're smaller. As a musician, I sort of felt the same way as, one of my concerts when my kids were actually there when they got older and they could actually, I brought them to sound check and on stage and they got a chance to feel the whole thing of it. It was really neat. It was really like that. They really understood what it was that I did, and I love that. That I can completely respect. I think that was really, really cool to see. But Bryce is moving on, and he did have a heck of a year that year. You're right, Kevin. That was crazy. I mean, that whole Devils team just found something. That defense found something because that was what Clarkson got the contract out of that year in a lot of ways. And that.
Yeah, and then when they got in the final, it was like a team of accountants playing against Hell's Angels. Yeah, because when you look at them, especially up front. Like think back with Parisi and Enrique and Carter and Zajac. I mean, they were all this sort of clean-cut, narrow-waisted, thin guys playing against these, these big, burly kings. Like you'd go into the dressing room, and I was just struck by the contrast of, the smaller, slight, clean-cut Devils-looking group and just the monstrous-looking, Kings group that it was really remarkable.
No, it really was.
It was the last hurrah of the Lamoriello era Devils.
It really was. That's probably when they started that's probably when they started. You really needed after that season to start thinking about some long-term development of their young forwards, and instead they kind of tried to put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, and now they're rebuilding.
And go ahead, Kevin.
Well, it was the loss of Parisi that
Yeah, that marked it. Yep.
And Kovalchuk.
Mm-hmm.
And Kovalchuk.
Yeah, but Kovalchuk for sure, but I think Parisi more, just in terms of the value he had within the room, plus his offensive ability, and that made the Devils his absence less desirable. Like no one was going to New Jersey to play with Kobe, but they might go to play with Parisi because of his reputation. So I would think that was really kind of the start of it all.
And that team, I mean, precariously they won in Game 7 of the first round against Florida. I believe it was in overtime.
It wasn't overtime. It was in double overtime, if I don't remember.
Yeah, it very, very easily could have been a first round elimination instead of going, the magical run to the Stanley Cup final with Brodeur, his last great flourish, and them beating the Rangers, which I'm sure most Devil fans loved a lot.
Yeah, Brodeur to me, and that was the kind of the fun part of that Stanley Cup Finals, because it's rare that you see a player that's sort of taking it all in and realizing that it's the last time he's going to do it at the same time. And you would talk to him, and there was a really interesting perspective from his and he was definitely, Brodeur is such a smart hockey guy. I mean, you could talk about the power play or the penalty, or anything, and he would sit there and he would say, he just I'm loving this. I never thought I would get it. This is like just it was like playing with house money to him. He just couldn't believe that they were back in this position. He had been there so many times, and to get to do it one more time in his career like that, you could tell. And there was a weirdness about Parise too, because everybody sort of had this feeling that this was it for Parise, right? He was going. I remember that Florida game really well, because that Game 7 and watching it, and at one point the announcer saying, well, this, if Florida scores here, that could be the last we see of Zach Parise as a Devil. And that was the truth. And then yet here he was, 2 months later playing in the Stanley Cup Finals, and then making it all the more awkward, I think, that he just wanted to go to Minnesota, but it becomes more awkward when you just come out of the Stanley Cup Finals and having to make that decision so fast, because now you're up against July 1st.
Well, and you can't criticize Lamoriello in the sense that the team did make the Stanley Cup Final, so it proved that keeping Parise for that run was
right.
justified.
Because that's a great example of trade him away and get nothing for him, or make a run for the Stanley Cup Final.
but and that's my point. But right now, they are likely one of the worst 5 teams in the NHL. I mean, this 3 seasons after they make the Stanley Cup Finals, they're probably, along with Arizona and Carolina and Toronto and a couple others, are going to be at the bottom of the league, and they have a really extensive rebuilding that they're going to have to that Ray Shero is going to have to go through. I mean, imagine what if they could have received 2 or 3 prospects or draft picks or whatever for Parise at the deadline. Sure, they probably wouldn't have made the Stanley Cup Final, but they is in place to move forward with, and you don't know what you would have gotten for Parise.
I think the biggest problem that happened with the Devils is, a lot of these teams now, coming off your entry-level contract, you're getting paid on potential, and a lot of times the contract that you sign isn't what you're worth, but the teams are hoping to grow into them. I think what stung the Devils is they paid Henrique and they paid Zajac with the expectations that they would continue climbing as players and they would continue climbing as top 6 forwards, and they kind of leveled off. They've leveled off as players, and they have not gotten what they've expected and what they're paying for. And I think that was a start. Losing Parise, Kovalchuk leaving, and those 2 players not reaching their potential, that started the downward spiral that they're in now. They have some really nice young defensemen, though.
Yeah, the only conclusion I can draw, and I've mentioned this before, and I know that you've bristled at this. Zajac and Henrique, I mean, they've proved over the last 3 years right now that they're nothing more than complementary players, because they really have not thrived in top 6 roles after Parise and Kovalchuk have gone. And granted,
I think that we have to look at those 2 players differently than each other. I don't think they're the same thing. I think
I'm with that on this too.
I think Henrique is.
I'm really going to go after Mike as soon as you're done. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think Henrique is a totally different. I think Zajac is what Zajac is, and I think the Devils always had the feeling that Zajac was what he was. But Henrique, there's a lot of upside there still, and I still think that Henrique, could be a force if given the right complementary players around him. Kevin, thoughts?
Well, you basically, I'm in total agreement. Zajac, I think everybody understood was not going to be an offensive player. That I think they hoped he would be a little more than he's ended up being. And Enrique was a guy who has not lived up to expectations. But I also think that team has been an offensive disaster for 3 seasons. So it's really difficult to know how good he is. I agree with you. I think there's still some untapped potential. Like if you traded him to a team with some offensive players, I think you'd see a completely different player.
And
but
also
what I'm really
how good he was in the playoffs. Like Henrique, we scored big goals.
He's got skill. Like I don't think he's an A or an A+ performer, but I think he could. He's a top 6 performer on depending on what team he would be on. I just think the Devils have been a disaster up front since Parisi left, a complete disaster. But what I'm really troubled by was that whole song and dance about what they should have done. They got to the Stanley Cup final. Like that's, that's a ridiculous statement. Like they should. Cause where would they be? I mean, we play sports to win now. You know what I mean? And Chiarelli and Ray Shero won Stanley Cups and they were gone. Within a few years, like to think like that is like, not even in the. I applaud the teams that say, "Look, I'm trying to win now." Like we're not playing a fantasy game here.
Like
where,
the Toronto Blue Jays.
The Blue Jays. Like that's just nonsense.
Screw the prospects.
Well, this comes down to, and you're the one who coined it first, Kevin, I love this whole cast. I mean, you're the one I first heard coin it, at least, was the whole idea that you never trade a player, you never have a player leave for nothing.
Right, because you have cap space. Yeah. Right,
because of the cap space you gain, right? And that in the NHL. Now, it matters a little differently when you're a team like the Devils who isn't going up against the cap. They were sort of below the cap, and then that changes to a degree. But still,
but you use that cap space for Ryan Clough and Michael Ryder.
Right, that's the problem. You use the cap space for Ryan Clough and Michael Ryder.
Well, but that's a different problem. Like the Devils have a problem that's not so different. I mean, Winnipeg, although I think it's less true now than it was, but it's hard to recruit to Winnipeg.
Sure.
It's really impossible to recruit. And your Islanders, and I think it changes now that they go to Brooklyn. But I think the Islanders had a hard time recruiting to their arena.
Right.
And, so they end up with guys like Ryder, and they get the bottom of the barrel, and Lou Lamoriello in his heyday would find undervalued guys and get them to come through. He's been unable to do that, and I think it's getting harder to do that now. So
yeah, and Ray Shero, you can see by the 5 or 6 players that he didn't bring back that that were UFAs that he didn't re-sign. I mean, the retirement communities in New Jersey are going to be chock full of Dinah Zubris and Michael Ryder because all those 30-something players are not going to be on New Jersey next year. They're going to go with their young guys. They're going to bring in Stephane Matteau. They're going to bring in Reed Boucher. They may even toy with the idea of having Pavel Zacha, their first-round pick, who was 6th overall, and make the team as an 18-year-old and sort of serve his tutelage under Patrick Ilyich. I don't know whether that's the best thing for his development. I'll leave that up to Shero and John.
I think Shero drafted him because he's one of the players that people projected could do that. I think that had a lot to do with it. I think.
Well, and he's big. I mean, I think it was he has skill, but I also think the fact he was a big player also played a role. They wanted to get some size.
Right. Now, while we're in the metro area, before we get to the Islanders and their new ice and all that stuff that the Islanders have tweeted out, and everything, we do have to talk about the Rangers for a second, and Antti Raanta, who I can never say properly. I'm sorry if I say his name wrong there. Is that the proper way to say it?
Yeah, that's close enough.
I think that's right.
Raanta, right? I always want to say Raanta, but it's Antti Raanta. Antti Raanta today came out in a Finnish newspaper and said, with fingers crossed, as I sat in the press box during the Nashville series, I was hoping that Chicago would go down in 4 so I could get back to Finland sooner. I was so pissed when we didn't lose to the Predators in 4. Now, okay, he also went on to say that he wished he was back in the AHL playing. This is a competitor, but that's it. How many times have you heard? I mean, even the guy who wrote it, who is Vesa Rantanen, said it's a statement is softly said for sure, but it's odd even from a Finnish goalie, and it is a strange thing to say that you hoped your team, but remember that Ronta sort of got upstaged in the playoffs, big time.
You have to put it in context. He did not play badly last year as the backup to Corey Crawford, and he lost his job to Scott Darling, who was basically a walk-on.
But then they named the street after Scott Darling, and they didn't name the street after Ante Ranta. So that's another thing.
It's hard to say though. Ranta Road.
Ranta Road does not exist. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Is that an ice cream?
Could be.
Yeah, but he should have listened to his mother, who would say, "If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything."
Right.
Because that's just insulting. He's not and I agree with Mike. You got to look at the context. I mean, basically, what he was saying is the team treated me poorly, so I wasn't going to root for it. That's the way he views it, and he wanted to go home. But this feeds into these stereotypes.
That's what I was thinking, Kevin. Exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
For years that, that the European players who don't have the great emphasis on the Stanley Cup as they would on an Olympic gold medal or a World Championship. Don't view it with the same, and we've all heard the cliches of some of the players having their bags packed, going into a deciding game, and being ready to get having flight reservations made and so forth. And I don't think that's true. The Stanley Cup now is global, and most of the guys who have taken it back to their country, everybody wants to do that. Everyone wants to be the hero. Taking the thing back to into Prague and the town, the square, and so forth. So I don't think people actually do believe in that. So that's why it's a shame when something like this happens, because it just feeds into that stereotype, which is certainly not true.
Right.
I think you understand his frustration. It's just his wording was horrific. He probably could have just said, "I was frustrated. I wanted to play. I'm a competitor. Not that I'm rooting for my team to lose." I think if he says that now, I'll get punched in the throat by Henrik.
Well, that's the thing. He's not going to a place where he's going to play a whole lot. Like he's going to in New York. I mean, if he's playing a lot, the Rangers are not happy about the situation, right? Because this is
Talbot played a lot last year because of injury.
He did because of injury.
I mean, you can make a case that the Metropolitan is so tight that Talbot versus Ronta trade, could cost them a division title.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because Talbot is that much better, and he's going to play 25 games.
Yeah.
So, that matters. You ready to take this down? You probably should record it.
Okay.
Backup goalies matter.
Hey, all right. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to have a whole blog coming up about this, and I'm trying not to mention Carter Hutton at all, but I've been working on it for a while.
It's been a week since we mentioned him.
Right, and going through exactly what you said now, going through exactly what you've said before, about the whole, that they do matter, and that the situation, and I think it matters for the Flyers, and we talked about that. It matters for a lot of teams this year, and I really have done a lot of research over the last week or so about this. So we're going to have some interesting stats as to how much it matters coming up probably tomorrow. Although I'm working on another big story that might come out tomorrow too. So I've got some interesting stories coming out. I wanted to throw this up too before we get into our main topic, because while we're on the Metro division, here is the Barclays Center ice going in time lapse. I hope, or else they really are quick there.
Look at that.
Beautiful, right?
Beautiful.
Now the thing is this, I talked to some people about this today at the NHL, and I said, because someone had brought up to me, the name Brooklyn is a really marketable name.
Oh yeah.
No.
It doesn't show up anywhere on the logo.
Yeah, the patch. The patch says Brooklyn.
The patch, yeah, but.
And the third jersey, I bet you will say Brooklyn.
The third jersey has to say Brooklyn, I would think.
Yeah.
They're not gonna do a Brooklyn Nets. They're not. If they do, they're gonna have a bunch of people losing their stuff.
I don't think
it can't be uglier than their last third jersey. There's no way that's possible. I dare you, Islanders, to make a jersey that's uglier than that monstrosity.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I got one over here. Hold on. You guys talk about this for a second.
You mean the Fisherman's Friend? That one?
No, I got another one. I got one of the
that horrible jersey from the '90s. What I always refer to as the Fisherman's Friend.
Oh, that black jersey was horrific.
But no, I mean, no, I understand branding, and I understand what there might be an enticement there to change it to the Brooklyn Islanders, to draw it separately from the Rangers. Rangers are New York, we're Brooklyn. The Nets did that with the Knicks, but I think it's different. The New Jersey Nets, they had championship history when they were in the ABA, not in the NBA.
Coliseum on Long Island.
Right, but not. And it was the New York Nets at that point, wasn't it?
This jersey, okay, which does not, now this is not an Island.
I have that jersey. Yeah, that one's atrocious.
This is a cool jersey. This is one of the coolest third jerseys. Now, this says Teleki on it because I actually like this jersey so much that at the time I was playing in a men's league, and we used this jersey as our jerseys. This is my goalie jersey from that year. But, yeah, this is like complete. I love this jersey. This is one of the first third jerseys, too, like when the third jerseys started coming around, right?
Yeah, I didn't love it, but it's not the worst they've done.
I thought it was pretty cool.
I like the one they had last year. This one right here.
Yeah, the Giants.
You mean the one they used for the outdoor game? The one that.
Yeah, I do like that one.
That's like the New York Giants jersey, though, to me.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, I understand.
I do like that. I love the simplicity of that. If that had been the jersey from the very beginning, I would have been okay with it.
Yeah, and I do get that they want, for branding purposes, they may be, there may be some enticement there to do it, but I'm telling you, if you want to alienate your fan base, you change it from the New York Islanders to the Brooklyn Islanders. I think they'll be.
And that fan base is fragile enough. Trust me.
Right.
To be honest with you, I'd be interested to get your take on this. Like, what will the fan base be? I mean, there's some of the folks that are predicting we're going to have a new fan base there.
I don't think it's as drastic as people are making it out to be. Are you going to get? I've written about this many times. I mean, you're going to get some people who simply can't go to every game anymore, and you have some people. I've actually been told by some people that they will never go to Brooklyn, and I said, look, here's the thing. I grew up a Whaler fan, and a lot of people on Long Island are equating this to the Whalers. Let me tell you right now, it's not even close. Okay, my team picked up and moved to North Carolina, and I was so upset over that. I didn't like the sport for about 2 or 3 years. My favorite sport, I was teamless, I was homeless, and it was a horrible feeling. This team's picked up and moved 20 miles. I didn't hear that people bitch and complain when the Devils did this. And they went to Newark, okay? No offense, but I mean, your jersey could be made out of Kevlar to go to Newark. So, sorry, it's true. But it's very nice, but don't get lost. With that being said, I think sorry, that's a rough
I hope
second.
no games go into double or triple overtime because there's no train out of there. I've been in that spot.
They already said they're going to expand the train service. It's not a perfect fit. Yes, it's going to be more expensive. It's going to be hard, a little more inconvenient, especially from the people out east in Suffolk County. But I know plenty of people that live in Suffolk County that are Ranger season ticket holders, that are Mets season ticket holders, that are Yankee season ticket holders. People will adjust, and as long as they're good, they're going to be fine. I was told already that 30% of the season tickets have been sold are actually people in the Manhattan, Brooklyn area. So I think you are going to have an influx of new fans. And you know what? This fan base is so bitter and so jaded, and it's been kicked and hit over the head with a shovel for so long. An influx of new, naive fans isn't the worst thing in the world.
Right.
Dan, let me ask, because I know nothing about the stops on the Long Island Railroad, but from what I heard, it's an extra 2 or 3 stops.
It's not horrible. No, it's not. If you're out east, if you're east of where the Coliseum is, where a lot of the fan base is a half hour east of that, you're looking at it maybe an hour 25, hour and a half.
That's a big hike.
That's a big jump.
Now, but if you're coming from Philadelphia like I do to go to see the Islanders play, this is way more convenient.
Of course. I posed the question too. Would you rather
it's all
see
about me. I just want to throw that out there, definitely.
I posed the question to the fan base. Would you rather see a horrible team in an old Coliseum falling apart 5 minutes from your house, or would you rather see an exciting, competitive team, that you might not be able to see them every game, but you have a team that can now compete for something that's an hour away? Boychuk and Leddy would not be with this team if they were still in the Coliseum. It's that clear. They would not. Gar Snow would not have been able to spend. So that's the option you have. You crappy team in your backyard, or a good team where you have to jump on the train.
Right. I have to say I do like this logo. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I like it. I think it's very cool.
I'm telling you, it's a travesty.
I think
it contradicts itself. It contradicts itself too.
I know, but I think it's awesome. You don't like this logo at all?
I don't love it.
I mean, I don't know, Kevin.
I like it. I like Brooklyn. The Brooklyn concept.
There's a definite, ever since, Welcome Back, Kotter, there's a definite American love of Brooklyn. It's
there is.
I think you can marry the two concepts and be fine with it. I'm not going to be one of those people that, just thinks like all change is horrible. You got to give and pay some homage to the idea that life has to move on, and sometimes it doesn't work as well the old way as it does the new way. So I think you should find a way to marry both of them together.
I'm going to adjust my camera like the scoreboard is in Barclays. There we go.
Yeah, right. That is the one thing that is interesting. How the scoreboard is completely is not over the center of the ice.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, I don't know if this is going to happen right away, but if you could put a man on the moon and send a rover to Mars and land a telescope on a moving comet, we can figure out a way to center that scoreboard.
We can figure out a way to make that scoreboard movable. It's
Right.
gotta be. Yeah, we gotta be able to put it on tracks. Come on, guys.
I was there for the rookie game, and the place is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning. It's not perfect, but it's absolutely beautiful.
Technically,
I'm going on September 22nd to the preseason Flyers Islanders game. So
Nice. I don't have to go to that. Maybe we'll meet up there. That sounds like we'll be working that out.
Technically, Brooklyn is on Long Island.
It is. Don't now go to Brooklyn and say that and see what happens.
right, exactly. But it's as much of an oxymoronic title for a team as the Utah Jazz. It just, I just don't think it works. There's a tradition to the Islanders. They won 4 straight Stanley Cups, under the late great Al Arbor with those teams, and they shouldn't change that name.
No,
I agree.
I don't think they should necessarily change it, but they could. There's no reason that they couldn't have the word Brooklyn on their jerseys.
Well, are they going to do what the LA Angels do? The LA Angels of Anaheim? Are they going to do the New York Islanders of Brooklyn?
They're already working Brooklyn in everything, and all their campaign and all their marketing campaign.
I don't even think you got to change the name. I'm just saying pay some homage to Brooklyn. That's all.
There's going to be a third jersey that's going to be Brooklyn based, and I've already seen plenty of T-shirts that are going to be in the works that are going to say Brooklyn hockey and all things like that. They're going to market that, and there are already some billboards that popped up across from MSG saying like the Kings of Kings County or something like that. Because Brooklyn is known as Kings County, so
right.
Yeah,
That's cool. So because there is a difference. And those of you who aren't in this area and I'm not even nearly. I don't even know this nearly as well as you do, Dan, about the difference between how these various parts of the New York metro area are perceived. Right, like there's of what Brooklyn is now versus what it was. When I think sports fans think of the Brooklyn Dodgers, right? That's what you naturally go back to the Brooklyn Dodgers, and that's even them, but that's ages ago, and I think kids still remember that there was a team in Brooklyn at one point. But I never saw the Brooklyn Dodgers play or anything. But still, that they were such a prominent. It was just a name that went along really well with everything. And then Brooklyn became it sort of had its down days for a while there, and then a rebirth of from what I understand. And I've recorded stuff in Brooklyn. There's a lot of great hipsters and young musicians in Brooklyn right now. I do know that much.
Yes, some people resent that, but there really is a rebirth of Brooklyn. And I had one person tell me this. They've never been to an NHL game. They've never even seen a hockey game. They're going opening night because it's Brooklyn and it's theirs, and they're going to be fans.
Yeah.
That's what I had one person tell me. He's like, I've never seen a hockey game. I am an Islanders fan. This is Brooklyn, and it's mine, and I'm going to support it.
Yeah, because for all the hatred that the island has for Manhattan and New York City, that they do share that with the Brooklyn folks. And I remember recording in both New York and Brooklyn, and people are like, "Oh, we would never record in Manhattan. You got to record in Brooklyn. That's the place to go." It's not New York, and it's really literally across the Brooklyn Bridge, which is just, a documentary I saw the other day by Ken Burns on the Brooklyn Bridge building. That's phenomenal, by the way. If you ever get a chance to hear that story, holy cow, what a story that is. But there's a lot there. There's a lot to it. But let's move on to our topic with the last 10 minutes of the show that we have here, and to talk and that was always good to talk about the New York Metro and talk about teams that could actually fall from grace. Because Dan, the other day Kevin and I did this, and Mike, we did this whole experiment basically in where, and we let it off by where the Flyers fall. And it made us. We went through the whole league at that point to see where the Flyers fell. And Kevin had them around 21st. I had them around 19th. I heard another list that came out yesterday on XM where they had them at 21st as well, Kevin. And it was just, I think that seems to be the gist of it. And as doing that,
right, they're close.
Yeah, and while we did this, we came up with teams that we all said, okay, well, that team's definitely in, that team's definitely in the playoffs, this team's definitely in the playoffs. But then you look back at it and you say what we would have said last year in that same predicament. We would have said the Bruins are in, for sure. The Kings are in for sure. The Penguins are in. The Penguins made it, but barely, right? So the question is, what teams that we all think are going to be in the playoffs have a potential to fall out of it? And that's my thought for today. The idea of Kevin came up with 4 teams he thought were definites, and I think that's where we need to start.
Okay.
The definite teams, because Kevin came up with his and we didn't give ours, but Kevin's teams were, if I remember right, the Rangers, the Lightning, the Blackhawks, and the Ducks, right, Kevin?
Correct.
Those are your 4 teams that you think.
I think four teams that will make the playoffs, and I don't think there's any chance they'll fall out.
Yeah, so you're giving odds, those 4 teams.
What were those 4 again? The Rangers, Blackhawks?
Rangers, Lightning, Blackhawks, and Ducks, which are the Final 4 of the NHL last year.
Conference
Yeah, I
finals.
think that's absolutely.
Yeah, and I would only add one team to that list, and I think that's the Washington Capitals.
Okay, so the Caps are in there.
I want to put them there, but I think still that's hard.
Yeah.
Put them there with their history and the fact that they haven't won and.
Well, not to say that they're guaranteed of going far in the playoffs.
No,
I think
that you're guaranteeing to make the playoffs is still a big deal.
Yeah.
I think that you have to look at the Blue Jackets last year and you say, okay, what teams in the NHL could survive that? What teams in the NHL could no one survive that, or would the Rangers still make the playoffs?
The Penguins did the season before, and the Red Wings.
Right. So it is survivable. So if you're good enough, you can survive that.
Yeah.
Do the Capitals survive that? That's my question. Do the Capitals survive those kind of injuries?
No. If Ovechkin went down, they couldn't survive.
I think if Holtby went down, I think they'd be in big time trouble.
I completely agree.
The thing that made Detroit's feat so impressive was that Datsuk was hurt, Franzen was hurt, and for a time Zetterberg was hurt, and they came back and made the playoffs with neophytes like Tatar and Nyquist. The core of that Grand Rapids team coming up and in the second half, driving them to the playoffs. The question is whether Pittsburgh, if they lost Crosby and Malkin, they did a few years ago. Remember when both of the players went down for a time, and they had guys like Tyler Kennedy stepping up, and they made and Fleury had a great year. They made the playoffs, but maybe it's a question of whether if Ovechkin and Backstrom go down, if Holtby goes down, can the Capitals make the playoffs? Catastrophic injury throws everything out of the mix.
Yeah.
So my list is a little different, just a little bit different. And then I want to throw some variables. I want to Sim City this up a little bit, okay? For those of you computer people, I'm going to throw like Godzilla and lightning storms and all sorts of things at these teams to see which teams can survive what.
Solar flares.
Right, exactly. Thanks, appreciate it. It's a Sim City player for sure. All right, so okay, I do not have Anaheim in that list, and the reason I don't have them in the list is just because I still don't think their defense and goaltending is beyond reproach. Again, I feel as if here's a team that won a ton of 1-goal games last year. They were very good in the shootout. They were very good in overtime. But they were only a +10 goal differential, right? Which to me, I look at the goal differentials a lot in this because that does show that you're dominant. Like that, if you're 50 goals ahead or 60 goals ahead, like the Rangers are, you're dominant, right? There's no question about it. They were 10 goals ahead, and then in the playoffs, Anaheim went far, but beat the Winnipeg Jets and the Calgary Flames, and that's a big but compared to what the Chicago Blackhawks had to do, which is beating the Predators and the Blues, right? So, or no, in the Wild, right? Who beat the Blues? The Ducks had a way easier path to the conference finals, and even though they took Chicago 7 games because they have the skill to do that, there were question marks. So I don't have the Ducks, and I think they made some good moves. I like the moves they made too. I like Bieksa a lot, but I think that there's still strengths. But I do put St. Louis and Minnesota into this category. I think both the Blues and the Wild can survive this. Could survive that. I think that
I'm scared of Minnesota this year. I really am, and that might be surprising.
I'm with you on that.
I just don't know what Devin Dubnyk is. Because that team was ready to fire their coach before they brought him in, and he got some. I like Devin Dubnyk, and I'm very happy he's established himself and he got paid. But if he didn't stand on his head like he did, I don't know what this team is.
Right,
all the firepower they have, they don't score enough goals.
Right.
I like their depth a lot more than Ottawa, but I put those two teams together in the fact that
I agree.
They rode incredibly
Minnesota and Ottawa
for the postseason.
No,
I mean,
the Wild were really the Wild are.
No. Let me finish. I think the Wild are a much better team, a much deeper team, but they're in a much more difficult conference, and they rode superb goaltending by Devin Dubnyk to the playoffs and barely made it in. I mean, it was within doubt the last couple weeks. Ottawa, Andrew Hammond was unconscious the last month and a half of the season. The only way they make the playoffs is by him losing one game. There is a connection there. Now I think Minnesota has the depth with guys like Parise and Suter, good veteran leadership. They have a pretty good defense. If Dubnyk can come close to repeating what he did last year, they'll make the playoffs. But as Dan said, that's a big question mark.
All right, so let me throw the first monkey wrench into all these teams in the NHL now, and they've lost their starting goalie. All right, their starting goalie's gone. All right, so the Rangers, can they still make it?
They already proved they could. Well, let me rephrase that.
Yeah, I mean they have the best defense in the East, so sure they can. Yeah.
Their system is so good, and I think Ranta, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think Ranta is a good goalie, and I thought that was a good trade. I think they would be okay. I don't know if they could do it for 80-something games, but I think they could do it. They could survive.
I'm more confident that the Rangers could win with Antti Ranta as playing significant games than I am of Edmonton winning with Cam Talbot as their number one.
Of course.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. Okay, so we think the Rangers can survive it. Can Tampa survive losing Ben Bishop for the entire year?
Yes.
I think Vasilevsky is as good a goaltender now, and in 2 years will be a better goaltender.
All right, Anaheim, they lose Michael Anderson.
Yes. Khudobin and John Gibson.
Right, so they can make it through. Okay. The Blackhawks lose Corey Crawford.
Scott Darling for...
Yeah, he could end up being better than Crawford.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. So we thrown that up. Now let's throw this one more monkey wrench into the whole thing. Now they haven't lost their back. Let's just assume that their goalies. I'm not going to say that it's complete Armageddon. They have their goalie back, but now the team gets off to a really slow start. Like so we look at one of these teams, and the team that I fear getting off to a slow start this year, are the Rangers. To be honest, I think the Rangers could get off to a slow start. So
they normally do.
They normally do, and they normally survive it anyway. But the kickback from teams getting off, like the Wild got off to a slow start last year and still made the playoffs. Right? They got off to and as much as I agree that Devin Dubnyk was phenomenal for them, okay, and was off the charts. I think it also had a lot to do with the way the team played around him, too. The team got better as the year went on, too.
There was a level of desperation.
Yeah, and I don't think that Dubnyk is. I don't think he is a Vezina goalie. I think that he's a very good goalie who played very well. Like Hammond is a very good goalie, who played very well. But I think a lot of that even Hammond's success, a lot had to do with Mark Stone and people going crazy in Ottawa. It wasn't just Hammond. But Dubnyk's goals against was 1.78, and his save percentage was 936. So it's hard for me to argue that he was the big factor.
Yeah, I mean, Mike's right. They're very similar teams. I just looked it up. The Senators were ranked, and this is one of those things where it probably catches people by surprise. Were ranked 19th in scoring, and the Minnesota Wild were 12th. And
both have nice balance up front.
Yeah, and the Wild and Senators were both among the better defensive teams in the league, which have goaltending. So
where I think there's a difference between the two teams is that Ottawa's a lot more dependent on players that we're not sure about. Stone had a fantastic second half of last year. Kaufman has a lot of talent.
Right.
You've got Zibanejad. There's a lot of good young players there, but we know that once they reach a certain level, sometimes there's a step back, and if you have that sophomore slump or that slump after a good year,
that's
then,
fair.
Yeah, the team will regress, and that could happen.
Right. We'll definitely talk more about the goalies things tomorrow in my blog as well when I talk about backup goalies. But yeah, I think there's certain teams like Montreal. Is Montreal going to survive the loss of Carey Price?
No.
I mean, most people think no, right?
No, I mean, in a short stint, like 5 or 6 games, Dustin Tokarski proved in the playoffs that he could play effectively. But if they lose him for a quarter of a season, I don't know if they're making the playoffs.
I felt like 90% of that team last year was Price, Pacioretty, and Subban.
Right.
Yeah. No. I wanted to end the show because we are running out of time. I'm sorry, I got a meeting that I really headed to shortly. But I do want to end the show with this thought because I got an email from a listener who backed me, and since he backed me, I wanted to bring it up. On the backup goalie Carter Hutton situation in Nashville. Okay. Now here's how he backed me. He said your point was proven last year, and you can just shove it in the faces of all the other people on the panel by simply bringing up the Chicago Blackhawks situation. Mike. And the fact that the Blackhawks, everyone sit there and say, okay, without Crawford, they're not going to win a Stanley Cup, right? Well, we just said that they possibly could, but let's say Crawford goes down. The fact is that they needed a backup goalie in Darling to come and turn the series around against the Predators, and he did it. And then they went back to Crawford, and they still won. So to me, that's the kind of situation I was talking about all year last year. That you needed a goalie who could step in for a few moments and carry you through, and we saw it happen. And I have been rightly justified. He's absolutely right. So I had to bring that point up. Thoughts?
Darling is still a cheap goalie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
doesn't
Damn it, you're right. It's true.
He was on his entry level contract.
I was making an argument that you needed to go out and get an expensive goalie. Shoot.
So.
You're right. Yeah, I've been stymied again. Well, I still believe it. But remember, guys. Dan, thanks so much for jumping on today. We appreciate it. Russ will be back tomorrow. Russ also is going to be coming. He's coming back from the
Upper Deck.
Yeah, the whole. Wasn't he was at the prospects thing for the NHL?
For Upper Deck Cards in Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah, in prospects.
Don't get me started on that. I'm so upset about that.
Well, just tell us something.
Okay, real quick.
Yeah.
Connor McDavid signed an exclusive deal with Upper Deck. His autograph's only in that card. Leaf, which is a really insignificant product, somehow found money and gave Jack Eichel an exclusive deal for his autograph. So in Upper Deck products this year, there will be no Jack Eichel autograph, which is a horrible thing for collectors since Upper Deck is exclusive and the only exclusive card company where you can actually have logos and NHLPA association. So it's just a complete mess. The trading card industry when it comes to hockey right now is a complete mess, and it's awful.
No, there you go.
Sorry, I know it's
well said. We'll talk more about that tomorrow with Russ. I'm sure, Kevin, do you agree with this, Kevin? You're a card person.
Yeah, I am. I haven't been following it, so I'd have to look into that. But I know what he's saying. I mean, usually you want it with the licensed company. So Leafs making it unlicensed cards.
Yeah, the cards look terrible. They can't. The thing is, they have them as Boston a University uniform, but since it's a collegiate uniform, they can't say Boston University, so they white it out. You have an autographed card of someone, you just have a white and red jersey. It looks comical.
Did they superimpose the Sabres jersey on it?
Yeah,
the Sabres emblem?
You can't show a team logo.
Okay.
You can put the jersey on, but you have to airbrush off the logo and the numbers and all that crap.
Wow. Right. It's amazing.
Yeah. Exclusivity rights for card companies are terrible.
Yeah, these aren't the tobacco cards from the teens, like Ty Cobb or Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Well, there you go. I agree. So
it wasn't reinstated, by the way. Shoeless Joe was not reinstated.
He was not. No.
Was not reinstated. No, I heard about that. Yep. All right. Well, here we go, guys. Without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow. Farewell.